The warm air of the volcanic clearing wrapped around the trio as they stood at the foot of the volcano, staring up at its towering form. Dark clouds of ash hovered near the peak, and every few moments, the ground beneath their feet rumbled as if the volcano itself was alive. Ilaria stood beside them, her silver hair glowing faintly in the dim light.
The fire egg is hidden within the heart of this volcano, guarded by the Inferno Serpent. To retrieve it, you must face its trials.
How dangerous are we talking here?
The Inferno Serpent is a creature born from the flames of the earth itself. It is as old as the mountains and has never known kindness or mercy. The trials will test your strength, your courage, and your ability to work together.
I still don't understand why we can't just sneak in and grab the egg. Do we really have to face a giant fire serpent?
I'm afraid so. The egg is protected by ancient magic. Only those who are deemed worthy can retrieve it.
What kind of trials are we looking at? Traps, riddles?
Both, and more. The Inferno Serpent will not allow you to reach the egg without testing every aspect of your abilities. But you must be cautious. The Serpent's domain is filled with molten lava, and the heat alone could be your undoing if you're not careful.
We can do this. We've come this far, haven't we?
We'll need to stay sharp. No running into danger without thinking first.
I guess if we have to do this, we'd better get started.
This is the entrance. Once you enter, you are on your own. I cannot follow you inside, but know this. When you face the Inferno Serpent, it is not strength alone that will save you. Remember to think, to trust one another, and to use your wits.
Leo, Maya, and Finn exchanged glances, their hearts pounding with both fear and excitement. The entrance to the volcano loomed before them like the mouth of a great beast, and the heat that emanated from within was almost unbearable. But they had no choice. If they were going to retrieve the fire egg and stop Zarok, they had to face whatever lay within.
Let's do this.
The path inside the volcano was narrow and treacherous, lit only by the occasional burst of molten lava glowing deep below. The air was thick with heat, making it hard to breathe, and every few moments the walls would shake as if the mountain was alive.
These are runes like the ones we saw in the forest. They're part of the ancient magic protecting the egg.
Do you think they mean anything important, or are they just decorations?
They might be clues. We should pay attention to anything unusual.
The path grew steeper, and soon they found themselves walking along a narrow ledge overlooking a river of molten lava. The heat was so intense that it felt like their skin might burn, even from this distance.
This is insane. Who thought it was a good idea to put an egg in a place like this?
Suddenly the ground beneath them began to tremble, and a lewd hissing noise filled the air. Vulfuri looking around for the source of the sound. From the molten lava below, a massive eyes. It was long and serpent-like, its scales glowing red-hot as if forged of the earth. Its eyes were molten orbs of gold, and as it opened its massive jaws, flames flickered between its sharp obsidian-like teeth. The Inferno Serpent had awoken.
Run!
Finn shouted, pulling Maya back as the serpent lashed out, its tail smashing into the ledge where they had been standing moments before. They sprinted down the narrow path, barely keeping ahead of the serpent as it slithered after them, its massive body sending showers of sparks and debris raining down around them. Leo led the way, his heart pounding.
We need to find cover.
Ahead of them, the path widened into a small cave, and without thinking, they dashed inside, collapsing against the cool stone walls as the serpent roared outside. They could feel the heat from its body even from their hiding place, and the cave walls vibrated with the force of its fury.
We can't outrun it forever. What are we going to do?
Finn, panting and wiping sweat from his brow, glanced around the cave.
We need a plan. The Inferno Serpent is protecting the egg, which means the closer we get to it, the more aggressive it's going to become.
Leo's brow furrowed in thought.
So we need to outsmart it.
Maya stared at him in disbelief.
Outsmart a giant fire snake? You've officially lost it.
No, Leo's right. The serpent is probably too strong for us to fight head-on, but it might not be as clever as we are. If we can figure out its pattern, maybe we can distract it long enough to reach the egg.
Maya wasn't convinced.
Distracted? With what, fireworks?
Leo, catching on to Finn's idea, looked around.
What about those runes? Finn, you said they were part of the ancient magic, right? Maybe they can help us.
Finn's eyes lit up with realization.
Of course, the runes must be connected to the protections around the egg. If we can activate them, we might be able to weaken the serpent or slow it down.
Maya glanced at the mouth of the cave, where the glowing eyes of the serpent could be seen just outside, waiting.
So we need to get back out there. Great.
Taking deep breaths and gathering their courage, the trio stepped cautiously back out onto the path. The Inferno Serpent was coiled nearby, its molten eyes fixed on them, its body radiating heat. It hissed menacingly, but for the moment it remained still, watching them as if deciding when to strike. Finn scanned the walls, looking for more runes. There, he pointed. If we can activate that one, it might buy us some time.
Leo nodded. Okay, Finn and I will go for the rune. Maya, you... Before he could finish, the Inferno Serpent let out a deafening roar and lunged forward. Leo barely had time to dive out of the way as its massive body smashed into the ground where he had been standing. Go! Finn shouted, running toward the rune while Leo scrambled to his feet.
Maya, wide-eyed with fear, took a few steps back, her heart racing. But as she watched her friends narrowly dodge the serpent's attacks, something inside her snapped into focus. Without thinking, she grabbed a rock and hurled it at the serpent, hitting it squarely on the side of its head. Hey, over here! She yelled, waving her arms.
The Inferno Serpent paused, its head turning toward Maya. For a split second, it seemed confused, almost as if it hadn't expected one of them to fight back. That was all the time Leo and Finn needed. Finn reached the rune and pressed his hand against it, reciting the words he had read in the library. The rune glowed brightly, pulsing with magic. At the same moment, the ground beneath the Inferno Serpent trembled, and a circle of light formed around it, forcing the creature back with a furious hiss.
It's working, Leo shouted, grinning.
But Finn wasn't done. We need more time. There's another rune further down the path.
Without hesitation, the three of them sprinted down the ledge, the serpent hissing and thrashing behind them. Each step they took echoed with the rumbling fury of the Inferno Serpent, its massive fiery body trying to close the gap. But the magical barrier formed by the rune Finn had activated slowed the creature down, giving them just enough of a head start. Maya, her heart pounding in her chest, led the way this time, glancing nervously over her shoulder every few seconds to make sure the statuan saben hello close. Finn was studying the walls, desperately searching for the next rune, while Leo kept a watchful eye on the path ahead, making sure they didn't get trapped by the jagged rocks and pools of molten lava.
There! Finn shouted suddenly, pointing to another set of glowing symbols carved into the wall further down the path. That's the next rune! We need to activate it before the barrier fades!
Leo was the first to reach it, but the ground trembled violently as the Inferno Serpent smashed its tail into the path, sending chunks of rock flying in every direction. One of the rocks narrowly missed Leo, who ducked just in time.
Hurry, Finn! Leo yelled, his voice strained with urgency.
Finn scrambled to the rune, his hands shaking as he tried to recall the words from the library. He pressed his hand against the symbol, his voice steadying as he began to recite the incantation. The rune glowed brighter, pulsing with magical energy. Just like before, The ground beneath the serpent trembled, and another barrier of light formed, pushing the creature back. For a brief moment, the trio stood frozen, catching their breath. The Inferno Serpent let out a frustrated roar, its fiery body swirling with molten rage as it slammed against the barrier, unable to break through.
"We're buying time," Finn said between gasps, his face slick with sweat. "But I don't know how long these barriers will hold. We need to get to the fire egg before the serpent breaks through."
Leo nodded, wiping the sweat from his forehead. "Right, the egg should be just ahead, right?"
Finn glanced at the map, which was glowing faintly in his hand. "Yes, it's close. We're almost there."
Maya, still catching her breath, looked up at the path ahead. Beyond the glowing rune, the narrow ledge widened into a large cavern. At the center of the cavern was a raised stone platform, and atop it, surrounded by swirling flames, sat the fire egg. It was beautiful, glowing with a radiant heat that seemed to pulse with life. The egg's surface was covered in intricate patterns, like molten lava frozen in time, and it radiated a powerful magical energy that made the air around it shimmer.
There it is, Maya whispered in awe, her fear momentarily forgotten. The fire egg.
But before they could take another step, the Inferno Serpent let out a deafening roar. The barriers holding it back began to crack, and the glowing light of the runes flickered.
"It's breaking through," Finn shouted. "We don't have much time."
Without thinking, Leo sprinted toward the cavern, his eyes locked on the egg. The heat from the flames grew more intense with every step, but he didn't slow down. Behind him, Maya and Finn followed, their hearts pounding with a mix of fear and determination. As they reached the stone platform, the ground beneath them shook violently. The Inferno Serpent had shattered the final barrier and was surging forward, its molten eyes blazing with fury.
"Leo, grab the egg!" Maya screamed, her voice barely audible over the roar of the serpent.
Leo didn't hesitate. He leaped onto the platform, reaching out for the fire egg. His hand hovered just above its surface, the heat almost too much to bear. But then, just as his fingers touched the egg, a burst of energy surged through him. The flames around the egg flared up, but instead of burning him, they swirled around him protectively, as if recognizing him. For a moment, everything seemed to stand still. The Inferno Serpent froze, its massive body coiled at the edge of the cavern, watching as Leo lifted the egg from the platform. The moment the egg left its resting place, the flames around the platform vanished, and the cavern was filled with a brilliant, blinding light. The serpent let out a final, earth-shaking roar, but instead of attacking, it began to retreat, its molten form dissolving back into the lava from which it had come. The ground stopped shaking, and the air around them grew still. Leo, holding the fire egg in his hands, stood on the platform, breathing heavily. Maya and Finn rushed to his side, their eyes wide with disbelief.
"You did it," Maya whispered, her voice filled with awe. "You actually did it."
Leo grinned, his face flushed with adrenaline. "We did it."
Finn, still panting from the rush of it all, looked at the glowing egg in Leo's hands. The fire egg. 1 down, 2 to go.
With the fire egg safely in their possession, the trio made their way back down the path, their hearts still racing from the encounter with the Inferno Serpent. The heat of the volcano had cooled slightly, and the once treacherous path seemed less daunting now that they had succeeded in their mission. As they reached the entrance of the volcano, Ilaria was waiting for them. Her violet eyes glowed with approval as she stepped forward to greet them.
"You have done well," she said, her voice filled with pride. "You have passed the first trial and retrieved the fire egg, but the journey is far from over."
Leo carefully handed the egg to Ilaria, who cradled it in her hands, examining it closely.
"The egg's magic is strong," she said, "but so is the danger you face. Zarok will know you have retrieved the first egg, and he will stop at nothing to get the others.
We're ready, Leo said confidently, though there was a flicker of uncertainty in his eyes.
Ilaria nodded solemnly. The next egg, the water egg, lies hidden in the depths of the abyssal sea. It is guarded by the ancient sea creature, the tidal Leviathan, a being as old and powerful as the Inferno Serpent.
Maya gulped. A sea monster? Great, just great.
But, Ilaria continued, her gaze steady, you have proven yourselves capable. You have the courage and the strength to face what lies ahead. But remember, Zarok is growing stronger. He will stop at nothing to control the power of the eggs.
Finn glanced at his friends, his mind already racing with strategies.
We'll be ready for whatever comes next, but we'll need help.
Ilaria smiled faintly. You will not be alone. I will continue to guide you, and there are others who will aid you on your journey. But for now, rest. You have earned it.
Leo, Maya, and Finn exchanged weary smiles, the weight of their journey settling on their shoulders. The road ahead was long, and the challenges would only grow more dangerous. But they had faced the Inferno Serpent and survived, and with the fire egg in their possession, they had taken the first step toward protecting both worlds. As the sun began to set over the enchanted mountains, the trio sat together, the warmth of the fire egg glowing softly beside them. Tomorrow they would set off for the abyssal sea, where new dangers awaited. But for now, they allowed themselves a moment of peace. The journey had only just begun. The next part of their quest would lead them to the treacherous waters of the abyssal sea, where the water egg and its fearsome guardian awaited. But with Zarok's forces growing stronger, the trio would have to rely on more than just their courage. They would need allies, magic, and all the wits they could muster to survive the trials ahead. To be continued next episode.